Welcome everyone to, as I said, November's Hot Lunch, the last one of 2021. And welcome. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that many of you are joining us today from the ancestral and unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations, and others are further afield. And so we acknowledge the keepers and caretakers of those traditional lands as well. My name is Eilish Courtney. Many of you know me already, and I am the liaison for Musqueam UBC Special Projects with Campus and Community Planning. And I'm a member also of the Hot Lunch Committee. So I'm kind of on double duty today because, as I said, I'm a member of the committee, but I'm also welcoming our guest speaker, my boss, Michael White, Associate Vice President of Campus and Community Planning. So before I introduce Michael, I will go through some housekeeping with you. The format today will be that Michael will speak and share information on Campus Vision 2050. Following that presentation, we will have some questions. We'll go straight into questions. We're not going into, we may have a brief break, but we're going straight into questions and answers. Some of you have already submitted questions in advance, but all of you will have an opportunity to pose questions to Michael via Slido. And the Slido, if you go on, many of you have used it already. So if you use Slido, there's the code www.slido.com. Our event code is #HL1124. So as Michael is speaking or at the end of it, please pose any questions on there and we'll get to them afterwards. So, and on to our presenter today. I'll keep my intro short because I know Michael is going to share some things about himself and his background in his presentation. I will let you know that he is a UBC alum. He got his BA from UBC before getting a Master's of Science in Planning from U of T. But we will forgive him for that. He came back to us, so that's good. He's an urban planning professional with 19 years of experience in North America, the Middle East, and Asia, and specializes in urban and regional planning, strategic planning, leadership development, and public engagement. He joined UBC as the Associate Vice President of Campus and Community Planning in early 2014. And we didn't actually let him rest too long before we actually invited him to speak at a hot lunch, because in October of 2014, we had him come and speak. So, so he leads a team of 60, I thought there were more of us, but anyway, there seems to be more of us, 60 interdisciplinary staff responsible for a broad set of municipal functions, including campus planning and design, development services, sustainability and engineering, community development, and public and stakeholder engagement. It's a very big portfolio. He also has a very key role at the moment in leading the discussions with Musqueam on the creation of a relationship agreement between UBC and the Musqueam Nation. And I'm fortunate to work with him on this exciting, important, and overdue agreement. So without further ado, I will hand you over to our guest speaker, Michael White.
Thanks, Eilish. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to attempt to share my screen, which I think I can do successfully here. There we go. I'm sure the team will tell me if that's not the correct presentation on the screen. Hi, everybody, and it's great to be back. I guess it has been a few years since I've spoken at a hot lunch, and I always look forward to it. I really enjoy the types of conversations we have here. So thanks, Henry and team, for inviting me. And I'm also joined by a number of members of the campus planning team. And as you'll hear today, it sure isn't a single endeavor. This is a huge team effort in a very complex type of environment that is campus and community planning. So I'm going to talk a bit about myself for a few minutes, and Eilish provided a very kind intro. I'll say a few more things about who I am, so you can get to know me a little bit better, and then we'll get into Campus Vision 2050, and as part of that, what campus and community planning does, if you're not aware yet. So a bit about myself. Eilish mentioned that I'm an urban planner, and have to tell you that I guess my interest started at a young age. So I think I was around 10 or 11 and created a city out of toothpicks. And as has been pointed out, there's no transit or parks that you'll see in this in this image. So, you know, I started from an honest place, but there was a lot of learning that was necessary. So I guess all that to say, I've been interested in cities and city building and communities from an early age. Through my career, Eilish mentioned a little bit about what I've done over the years, and I did work for the city of Vancouver for a number of years as an urban planner, but then had an opportunity to work in the Middle East for 4 years, and it's been a fascinating journey. And that was just before I came to UBC. And just a little kind of anecdote of what I learned working in different physical and cultural contexts is how similar the issues that we're facing globally. I think it's kind of intuitive, but to actually experience it. And working in the Middle East, for the first time, the government actually entertained us having community engagement for neighborhood plans that we were developing. So pretty proud that the team and I were able to get into the communities and have conversations about the future. And you know, the one really interesting thing I found was that the needs and interests were the same kind that we hear in our campus planning programs in Vancouver and at UBC. Needs and interests around safety, around transit, around schools, around parks. I think it was a really kind of resounding reinforcement of the types of work that we need to do as community planners, regardless of context or culture. So had an interesting professional journey and have landed, as Eilish said, at UBC. I've been here since 2014, and it's been a wonderful experience, and in no small part to the great team that I get to work with here at UBC. So kind of that's the snippet on the professional front. Personally, I have a great family, 2 kids and my wife. We try to have fun together, and I'm not sure where more gray hairs are coming from right now, work or my 2 children, but we'll see. we'll see who wins that competition in the years to come. They're wonderful support to me, and I really cherish the time that I get to spend with my family and try to integrate that with a very busy professional life. Obviously, there's other things that demand our time, and we've been renovating a house for the last 15 years or so. I think we're almost done, thankfully. I would never want to go through that again. And I think I can empathize with some of the affordability issues that's become a big topic in our community planning programs, and what people have to endure in Vancouver to make sure they have secure housing. I like to keep active. You have to spot me in this photo. I've been playing ice hockey since I've been a young child, and it's one of my great outlets in staying sane, as I get to play ice hockey a number of times a week out here at UBC, and also get to coach one of my kids in ice hockey, which is a great passion of mine. And these are photos of me playing hockey in the Okanagan, where I grew up. So I don't know if Eilish mentioned that, but I grew up in the Okanagan. And I think the last thing I'll say about myself is because community planning is a pretty stressful, intense, can be conflict-ridden activity. How do you stay sane? And I think I come to one of the I guess inspirations in my life. If any of you are familiar with The Big Lebowski, one of my favorite movies is trying to stay zen and have fun amidst all of this. And so I think that movie is pretty emblematic of how I like to treat life, which is it's very serious and pretty intense, but we got to have fun and try to stay zen through it all. So,
Michael, before
yes.
you go into the presentation, I'm wondering if you can put the slides on full view, just so we can see them better.
Yeah, you bet.
Thanks.
There we go. So let's talk a little bit about, and I promise not to take too long, but let's talk a little bit about campus community planning and Campus Vision 2050. The first thing I want to say, and Eilish acknowledged our First Nations hosts and the work that we are doing now with Musqueam, our hosts here in Point Grey, and how transformative that is in the relationship between UBC and Musqueam, but us as community planners. And as an institution, it's fundamentally changed. I think when I started, this was a small part of the conversation. It's now transformed appropriately into being a real centerpiece of how we do and undertake community planning. The campus, many of you will be familiar with, the almost 1,000 acres. We're a university, of course, but we're also a quasi-municipality. And I always start presentations by acknowledging that we have about 80,000 people here during the day when school's in full operation. That's like planning and operating a city the size of, say, Kamloops on the peninsula every day. And when you think about the number of students we have on campus, but also the number of people living here, and overnight a population of around 25,000 people and growing, it's a big municipal operation. What do planners do? What does campus and community planning do? Well, you think of all the ingredients that make up communities and our campus community. And the planners are at the center of that, trying to understand what those ingredients are and engaging with all of our constituents to make sure we get the right mix of all these ingredients that you see on the screen and others to create great, sustainable and livable communities. For UBC itself, we're like a municipality. We're not a municipality. We have a land use plan, which is the equivalent of an official community plan that you'd find in any city in the province. And it's provincially governed. And we need to update that plan every decade. And it has been over a decade since we last updated our overall plans for the campus. And this is what Campus Vision is going to allow us to do, is to update the plans for the campus and have a very in-depth and hopefully transformative discussion about the future of the university and the campus. The journey we've been on has been, I would say, transformative in and of itself to this point. Much of it positive, not all of it positive. And you think about from the early days before UBC was here and how UBC has transformed the landscape. Being on Musqueam's traditional territory, the province creating the university about 100 years ago and carving out the 1,000 acres for UBC to become originally a very, basically a commuter campus, which was a destination with not many people living here around the clock. And as you can see from the photo on one of the photos on the right, covered essentially in parking lots and people driving out here every day and attending classes and doing research, to the campus that we very much appreciate and acknowledge today, which is a much more sustainable and transit-oriented community. And Campus Vision 2050 is allowing the conversation to say, okay, where are we taking this next? Where are we going to go grow? How are we going to grow? How are we going to change over the next 30 years? If you look back over our trajectory in the last 10 years, an amazing amount of growth, both as an institution, also in the neighborhoods, and the types of projects that we have developed on campus. One of the fundamental questions going into Campus Vision 2050 is, well, what kind of growth are we anticipating for the future? And this is one of the basic questions that we're scoping out this winter with a lot of support from the institution to say, what is the academic plan for the institution? What is the research plan for the institution? How much growth can we be anticipating? And how is that growth going to be distributed across the region through this campus and the new opportunities such as Surrey? Some of those basic questions we need to have answered heading into this big engagement process for Campus Vision 2050. There are a number of things that have changed over the last decade that you will all be very familiar with. It's a much different conversation, and rightly so, when you think about, especially around reconciliation and climate action and affordability. These are things that I think they were being treated in a much different fashion a decade ago and are at the forefront of the work we have to do now in Campus Vision 2050. So this will be basically the long-term plan for the campus. It'll include some different components, a 30-year vision, which will be the first phase that we start next year, a land use plan update, so an update to that provincial document, and then more detailed plans that will follow. It does take time to undertake these kinds of processes because we want to have very thorough engagement and a very thorough technical work that supports it. The program will launch in early 2022, and you'll be hearing lots about it as there's going to be a whole plethora of ways for the community to engage with the team in creating the vision for the campus. This just basically outlines the steps that we will go through over the next couple of years. As you see up top, the big chunks of work. And right now we're focusing on the terms of reference for the process, including the needs and aspirations. So what are those broad intentions? You need intentionality when you head into a planning process to be successful. And so what are those broad intentions that can then get crystallized in a terms of reference to tell people, well, what's on the table for discussion, what's off the table for discussion before we head into the actual 30-year vision, which is the first big deliverable. Engagement is the heart of the work that we do, and we do have an engagement charter, which we're very proud of. It also needs to be updated, and we continually look for innovation and best practice for engagement on campus. This is going to be a very thorough engagement process with different groups, and you'll see some of them on the screen, and different ways for individuals in different parts of the campus community to engage. Also a much different engagement process with Musqueam. So we're actually co-developing with Musqueam, Musqueam specific engagement process. I'm working on principles right now with them to guide that, as well as the actual techniques that we'll use to engage with Musqueam and the Musqueam community in this process, in addition to inviting Musqueam into all of the community advisory committee and other types of activities that we'll have with all the other constituents on campus throughout Campus Vision 2050. We're also trying in a much more concerted way, reaching into communities hard to reach and underrepresented. And so equity, diversity, and inclusion is, I think it's a much different conversation than a decade ago, and how we can meet people where they are and have them engage in safe and accessible ways throughout this process. And the team has been doing a ton of work and a ton of training with the help of other units at the university to make sure that we're doing that in a very effective way. So I mentioned the needs and aspirations for the planning and getting those set. If you look at the preliminary terms of reference, which is available online right now, you'll see these themes emerging and the types of issues that the community is starting to flag and the institution starting to flag, and some of the opportunities that we want to explore through 2050. These shouldn't be a surprise to you to see these on the screen. Now it's about, well, what are basically the parameters within? So for example, affordability. How much more housing do we want on campus? What type of housing? What kind of housing programs do we want to support affordability? Planners are at the center of these discussions. Like I said earlier, these can be fairly sometimes conflictual, sometimes just competing interests in a process like this, and we have to play the role of trying to balance those interests, taking them to our Board of Governors so that they can make an informed decision at the end of the day about the plans for the future. So the next steps for the process, as I mentioned, we're working on the preliminary terms of reference. We want to finalize that by June of next year, so that it can set those goalposts for the process. And you'll be hearing a lot more in the early part of the new year. We'll have a launch event, a number of engagement activities to firm up those terms of reference, and then heading past June for the start of the creation of the 30-year vision itself. So I think I'll stop there because Eilish, I know I'm over time, and I'm going to be really happy to hear comments and take questions from the group.
Oh, Michael, that's fabulous. Thank you. You did very well to get all that information. You actually were, yeah, pretty good timing, I have to say. Concise, to the point. You've obviously done this a few times. Once or twice, maybe.
Some practice over the years.
Yeah, and obviously, of course, have a great team as well working with you to. So that's fantastic. We had a couple of questions. I know I encourage people to go get onto Slido, and again, ask any questions. Michael's here to answer any questions that you have. And before we get into that, I have to say I loved the model, Michael. You were obviously meant to be. No doubt about it, but yeah, definitely missing the green space and the transit. And I want to guess that you were, I'm going to make a guess at the top left. Were you at the top left in the hockey?
That is correct, Eilish. Good call.
Hey,
you got it.
It took me a while to look through, but yeah, that's him. Anyway, no, great to hear about all of that. So let's start with a few questions before in advance. So one of them was, how has your journey been since the pandemic, and what has changed in your day-to-day work?
It's a great question. I think one of the biggest things has been, like for many of us, working remotely, and the benefits of that have been significant. Obviously, John Madden always reminds me of the benefits for the climate emergency and our climate action plans. That's an obvious one. The time gained back to allow to complete a lot of work that is difficult to complete, plus easier for pickup and drop off of kids, for example. So there's been some huge on the well-being side, the climate side. I've experienced those personally. The one thing I've missed though, and talking to the team, is about, as planners and the type of work we do, the need for direct engagement. It's great. Zoom has been actually a great tool. It's super valuable, but I am starting to miss the in-person engagement because when you're in a room, I find it's much more generative when you're in a room, seeing people's faces and having reactions, and that kind of interaction does lead to the creation, I think, of different outcomes in a conversation. And Zoom is efficient, but it can be much more mechanical. So I'm feeling a bit kind of deficient, I guess, and wanting to engage in person as much as possible. So we've come up with a hybrid in campus and community planning to allow us to work a couple days at home and still come into the office several days of the week for those kinds of sessions. Also with community engagement, again, it's been great to have, we've had open houses and activities online, and we'll continue to do that. For the tough conversations, I feel like I'm missing being in the room with our other community leaders and constituents to have those tough conversations. So those are some of the learnings I've had through the pandemic.
Yeah, I think it's very similar to what we've, through some of our conversations, even in this hot lunch over the past while, people have shared exactly that. I mean, we joke about the, around the water cooler type of conversations, but they are the ones that quite often where ideas get generated and people bounce ideas off, and then you start that conversation. And as you said, the conversations that have to really happen in person are not easy on Zoom. You just can't do it. It's not the same. So I think probably you're sharing a lot of what everyone here is experiencing. You talked about equity, diversity, and inclusion being very much in the forefront. And one of the questions was, what is your philosophy regarding accessibility in the built environment?
Yeah, thanks for the question. I think it parallels some of these other conversations where it was acknowledged before, but the degree to which we're actually intensifying the conversation, I think that's changing. So even in recent months, there's been a lot more engagement with, for example, the AMS and others around what is the university doing to improve physical accessibility. There's some more tactical things we're working on. For example, an online wayfinding interactive map, which will be launched soon, which will provide information like we haven't had before, where people can look on their phone and see where washrooms are, accessible washrooms, for example, are across the campus, to provide that kind of information. But through campus vision and some parallel work in other parts of the university, we're going to be looking a little more systematically at accessibility in the built environment. That includes not just buildings, but also the public realm. And if you walk across the campus or travel across the campus right now, you will see that there's still some issues that we need to address to make it a much more accessible public realm. So it's not just buildings that we're talking about. We also introduced a few years ago the Accessibility Shuttle, which was a program we worked in partnership with the VP students to provide. We pedestrianized the heart of campus, which is a huge success. People, it's a model. At the same time, that then creates some barriers for accessibility. So we needed to, we introduced the shuttle, but it's that kind of thinking and exploration that we're doing now, but we'll continue to do through Campus Vision 2050.
Great, thank you. Of course, the one of the questions that has come up is about the latest announcement of our new campus. So of course, campus community planning does work both here and in the Okanagan, and now we'll be in Surrey. So Yeah, can you share a little bit, can you share a little bit more about the new Surrey site and what kind of activities will be cited there?
Sure. No, another great question. So as part of the university strategic plan, there was an intention to increase the presence of the university across the region. And south of the Fraser has always been one of those key areas with the growth and activity south of the Fraser that the university's been considering expanding its presence. Now we have this great opportunity. And so a site has been acquired by Properties Trust for the university to explore that. And I think what we're going to be doing and supporting from campus and community planning is that exploration now. So there's engagement happening internally with the faculties and the deans about the opportunities, a lot of excitement, what that means academically. And then on the community side with the city of Surrey, whose jurisdiction it is, as well as the First Nations and different stakeholders in Surrey and community partners, all of that engagement is now beginning. Because the broad intention is there, and now we're going to have to crystallize what that specific program will be. And campus and community planning will be there because we want to make sure it's a sustainable facility. We want to make sure it's a high quality of urban design and experience, and it's accessible. It'll all be connected with SkyTrain. Haven't said too much about SkyTrain, about the expansion in Surrey, and the connection obviously to UBC, which is a super high priority of the university. And my team with Jeannie Nalliston's guidance has been, and Tyler and others on the call have been actively advocating and pursuing SkyTrain to connect to UBC. So the Surrey presence is going to basically complete or provide that kind of complete access across the region for the university. So we're pretty excited about that.
Great. And yeah, transit, lots of questions on transit, Michael. I'm going to get to that in a moment.
Okay.
Yeah. Believe me, yeah, there's lots of questions. But one other question that has popped up about Surrey and is sort of related and says, with the Surrey campus and UBC Robson Square, do you see more satellite locations around the Lower Mainland of the province as part of Campus Vision 2050?
Yeah, so Campus Vision 2050 is the primary scope is the Point Grey campus. But what it will do is we'll do it in coordination with these other efforts across the province, because to do the academic planning, you need to, obviously, they need to inform each other. So the focus is the Point Grey campus, but it'll be coordinated with Surrey, downtown Vancouver, and other activities at UBCO. And we are across the province, so we have a footprint across the province. So it all needs to be coordinated, but the outcomes for this are basically new plans for the Point Grey campus.
Great. And as I said, there are lots of questions about transportation, the rapid transit. Can you talk a bit more about this in terms of the progress of rapid transit for UBC, intersections between the transportation plan and Campus Vision 2050? And then there's traffic safety in general on campus. There you go.
Oh, yeah, no, great questions. And we're spending a lot of time on these questions. The first one on rapid transit. So there's been a plan for many years to see the extension of SkyTrain to the university, and we're making a very, very good progress. The TransLinks led some technical work that's just concluding about the alignment and station locations. As you all know, the construction is stopping at Arbutus for the first phase. So this is to get it to complete all the way to Point Grey campus. The next big step is, it's called the business case, and that's basically getting it to a finer level of design and costing, so that we can send that document to the senior governments to say, now we need some capital funding to build this thing. And so the next big gate is hopefully next spring to start the business case, which lasts about a year. And if all goes according to plan, around 2030, we would see the arrival of the train on campus, and we're working through. The intention is to have eventually 2 stations. Right now, focusing on the first station near Westbrook and University Boulevard, and then planning for extension into the southern part of campus. So that's all going to integrate into Campus Vision 2050, both physically and how that integrates and what it means for land use planning. And also the board has said there's a willingness for the university, along with other partners in the region, to contribute to the regional share of the cost of the extension from new revenue, primarily generated through Campus Vision 2050. And that's a big discussion that we'll be having through 2050 is the ability to make that contribution. So lots happening, got a big team working on it, a fantastic team. There'll be more to come in the new year. The traffic safety issue is another huge priority. And we have a number of efforts underway. We've made great improvements in the heart of the campus. As I mentioned earlier, pedestrianizing the heart of the campus, for example. We're having still some issues, obviously, around the perimeter. We don't control the roads around the perimeter of the institution. Marine Drive, 16th, most of Westbrook are actually owned by the province. And so we're working with Krista and my team really aggressively to try to get the province to make a number of safety improvements on those corridors. And I think one thing we're going to be focusing on as well is improving communication and engagement on this issue. So I've had meetings, I have another one after this actually, with different groups on campus to just share more information about what is being pursued and ways that the different groups can help advocate. So the UNA, UFASTA, which is the Faculty and Tenants Association in our neighborhoods, different groups, different colleges have approached me. There's a number that want to get more involved. And so we're going to be convening more discussions. And I invite any of you who are interested to reach out to me. And because we do want to, I think, improve how we're communicating about those efforts across the campus and with all the various partners. And it is not just the province, it's other jurisdictions like the City of Vancouver, the UEL. There's a lot of overlapping jurisdiction when it comes to transport on the peninsula.
Sure. A lighter question to ask you now, so it's not, what has been your favorite and or most meaningful contribution to UBC thus far?
Wow, that's a really good question.
That's the easy one, I know it.
I think I should let my team answer that. Actually, I shouldn't answer that one.
Your most favorite. Stick with your favorite.
I'm gonna go off script. Carol, where's Carol? Carol, why don't you tell the group?
I have a good answer for this.
Okay.
I think what I've been around campus and community planning for many years, and I have been around when we had different leadership and new leadership, and I think and Michael's leadership, and I think what I've seen evolve within the organization is a real dedication to how we engage and how we approach our planning issues, planning opportunities on campus. And we've evolved with the times, we've evolved with new challenges and new opportunities. And through Michael's leadership, I think the team has grown and flourished and been able to tackle some of these challenging questions, problems, opportunities, and seeing great outcomes as a result. I think we're well set up to tackle the many challenges and opportunities that face us with Campus Vision 2050, and we're all really looking forward to it. And I think it's been, I mean, that's what I would say. I don't know if anyone else on the team wants to say anything else, but growing with the times.
I didn't pay her to say that, but
Yeah, it was a good answer though. Well, what's been your favorite project, Michael? What has sort of really, was there one that really grabbed you?
So not long after I started, the reconciliation poll project was initiated, and that in and of itself was, I think, an amazing achievement and something I was proud to be part of. The big learning opportunity for me, though, was in my engagement with Musqueam and Leona Sparrow and others, that just appreciating the needs of engaging properly and more deeply with our host nation on projects on campus, and a lot of learning that started there from a place of real ignorance, like my lack of understanding of calling the Musqueam a stakeholder at one of the first meetings in 2014, and Leona taking me aside and saying, you got a lot of learning to do, kid. And she gave me a book, and she said, you know what, we're not a stakeholder. We're the host nation, and you need to appreciate what that means if you're going to do community planning here. And so that started a big journey, a rocky start, and I think now into a much better place of mutual respect and better understanding. So to me, that's by far something that I think I've probably appreciated the most.
I think that was a pivotal moment for a lot of people on campus in terms of our relationship in a way, because I think a lot of people learned from that, some of the missteps and some of the positive outcomes that came out of that. And on that note, how is the relationship agreement different to the memorandum of agreement that we had signed with Musqueam in 2006? Like, are there?
Right. So yeah, we have the existing agreement, which is that memorandum of affiliation. Is pretty narrowly focused, mostly on the academic interface. And what the relationship agreement, which is being led by Robin Sissery, that process is meant to transform the relationship and broaden and deepen, I think, engagement with Musqueam in the context of UNDRIP and the TRC and our Indigenous strategic plan, and take, again, a transformative view of a relationship like this. So it's going to broach all kinds of topics. For example, Campus Vision 2050 and the co-creation of principles of engagement, as well as the engagement process with Musqueam. We've never done that before. And so the relationship agreement is trying to capture all these different aspects of the relationship between Musqueam and UBC. And so it'll transform that 2006 MOA that was signed back then. And I'm proud to be part of that team and hopefully make good progress in the coming months.
Great, thanks for sharing that. On relationships, what about the relationship between, some people don't understand the relationship between campus and community planning and UBC Properties Trust.
Oh, Properties Trust. Okay, so
Properties Trust.
Good. We need to do a better job, and we've been talking. Aubrey's the CEO, talking about doing a better job of explaining the role of Properties Trust. I think just briefly starting out with our land endowment. So while we have 1,000 acres, 2/3 of that's academic campus. Well, the remaining third has been designated by the province for basically land development to support the academic mission. And that is happening in a few different ways. Properties Trust does master planning in those neighborhoods, and they sell off lots to the private sector, to developers under long-term leases, which creates revenue for the academic endowment. So revenue is generated for the academic endowment, and it supports different positions in the academy. It supports the facilities in the academy. And so that's one of the big goals or jobs of Properties Trust, is to develop that revenue. Second is, with the land, is to create faculty and staff housing. And so Properties Trust develops and manages faculty and staff housing, and following policies created by our board through the Housing Action Plan. That's the second big component. The other dimension of housing is, on the first one I mentioned around revenue. Well, a lot of that revenue that's coming to the university through those long-term leases, it actually has been used to finance student housing. So the thousands of units of student housing that we've seen on campus and are delivering right now on campus are financed from the land development. And so that's enabled by Properties Trust. And then the third big area is they are contracted by John Metros's group, the facilities group, to build academic facilities. That's just a contractual relationship where UBC hires Properties Trust to build now the Gateway building, biomedical engineering, different capital projects. And so there's three big remits of Properties Trust, and they're have a separate board, but they do follow the policies and plans that are set by the university for the neighborhoods that they're working in.
Great, thanks for that. You talked about the relationship agreement with Musqueam, and I'm sure that's I think it's a pretty unique agreement that we're doing, and I know a lot of places are watching us doing it, and but also, are there other universities in Canada who have the same sort of quasi-municipal structure as UBC Vancouver, or are we special in that way?
Yeah, we're pretty unique. There's other universities that have land endowments and are pursuing residential development, trying to create revenue and affordable housing projects. But we're one of the very few that are self-governing when it comes to land use. like I mentioned earlier, we have the land use plan, which is approved by the province, and that just sets out broad parameters around use and densities and heights and those things, those kinds of things. But within that, the UBC has a fair bit of discretion. And so it's very unique. It means that we have to have clear plans developed like we're doing, and also deep engagement, because there is no mayor and council at UBC. So we have the UNA, which is responsible for providing a number of services and amenities and advocacy for residents in the neighborhoods. We have a development permit board that approves development projects in neighborhoods. We have a lot of opportunities for deeper engagement that you wouldn't find, I think, in a typical municipal structure, because of the lack of a mayor and council. So it's unique. It enables all kinds of flexibility and innovation at UBC. I think other universities have been asking, how do you do it? Because they're interested in that kind of approach. But most of them are limited because they fall within a city, like the city of Calgary, for example, for the development of the university lands there. So it's quite unique across North America, actually.
Okay, yeah. So going back to Campus Vision 2050, what do you think are the biggest opportunities coming out of that? What goes? Yeah,
so I think, and it marries to what we're hearing as the top priority. So affordability, what can we do differently to better address affordability? SkyTrain and access to the housing ecosystem across campus or across the region will be one of those solutions, but what can we do on campus? And I think that's going to be one of the most exciting areas for us to explore, is how to better address affordability. Climate action, the Climate Action Plan was approved at committee this week, and it's a real opportunity to look at a more sustainable approach to our operations and development on the campus. I think those are two examples of where there's fantastic opportunity, in addition to all the other important things that you saw on that list.
That's great. We've been grilling you now for about a half an hour. You're doing very well, but there's just a couple more questions, Michael, and then we'll let you off. We'll give you some time. There's a discussion about the sustainability. Of course, there's a number of points about sustainability. One is, will the university put a cap on growth before it becomes unsustainable? And I know this is a topic and a conversation that you've had with a number of people on campus. So would you like to share your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, it's a fundamental question going into any planning process. I think, just to zoom out a little bit, the region that we're living in is going to see at least 40,000 people a year moving to it over the next 25 years. And I think that's an underestimate made by Metro Vancouver. So that's over 1 million people that'll be moving here. I think with the impacts of climate change on the planet, the growth of our economy, you're going to see more people moving here. And so all of those people need somewhere to live and work. And we need to be a part of that as a partner in the region. And so whether you philosophically believe in the region growing or not, I think there's a reality that this region is going to be growing. And so how do you sustainably do that? How do you do it with zero emissions, for example? Those are the kinds of questions. For the academic, for the institution, there is a fundamental question of what kind of growth and change that, and these are the conversations we're having with the provost office and the deans about, well, what is the growth ambition of the university? Or is it about change and managing change? And is it about distributing that across the region? So Surrey is an opportunity for some growth. And what does that mean for the Point Grey campus? So those are the kinds of questions that we're working on with the provost office right now.
Great. I think we've covered off most of the questions that are on here. Yeah, I'm just checking to see I didn't miss anything else here. How is CNCP involved in UBC's campus as a living lab concept?
Yeah, great.
Exciting examples in the works.
Sure, it's a great program because we have flexibility on the campus with our own governance. There's all kinds of opportunities to look at projects like the Tallwood building, the bioenergy facility where we burn wood waste to create energy. These are things we can do much more flexibly and easily because of our arrangement on campus. I'm on the steering committee. Campus and community planning helps basically plan and accommodate those kinds of projects. Tallwood, for example, Grant Miller and my team had to work with the province on a special building code for that site. And so our team, whether it's on the regulatory side or the planning side or design side, it gets involved in almost all of those projects.
Oh, great. Are there ways, the staff that are on here, if they want to get engaged in some way with some of the engagement pieces, what can they do? Who do they contact? How do they? Well, hopefully they're mobilized now and they want to get involved and be part of this.
That's what we want. That's what we want to hear. Madeline Madeline, why don't you describe, especially for Campus Vision 2050, ways that people can engage, and starting soon, in that process?
Thanks, Michael. Yeah, we're really excited for everyone to get involved. So first off, we will have an online web platform, which will have a number of ways for you to engage. So we'll be launching that in January. So look out for information about that. But then we will have a series of events, both online and in person. So we're planning to have a kickoff event around January 18th, which is when we're launching, as well as a series of open houses, pop-up events. And then we will have a number of kind of more in-depth workshops for people who really want to dig into some of the bigger questions and issues. And then if any of you on this call are interested in facilitating a dialogue with your staff unit, please let me know, reach out to me, because I'm developing facilitation guides and I'm happy to facilitate a session. And I'm planning to do that with student groups, staff, and faculty groups as well, if you wanted to spend an hour talking through some of the exciting opportunities with Campus Vision. So a number of ways to get involved. December 15th, around then, our website is launching and it will have all the details for ways to engage. So look out for that. And feel free to reach out to me in the meantime if you have any questions about how to get involved.
That's great, Madeline, thanks. Yeah, fantastic. Because I mean, it's up to us as staff members. Many of us have been on campus for a long time and we see the changes, and it's up to us to, if you want to play a part in helping make it better and participate, that it's up to us to share our voice and be part of that. And I think, Michael, thank you so much for sharing all of that. It really is such a unique portfolio and unit that we have. And I did like one comment in advance that someone said, they just said, I'm excited to hear what Michael wants to share with us at the lunch. Thank you to Michael for all he has accomplished to enhance our living experience at UBC. So there you go. So
thank you very much, Eilish. What we have accomplished, not what I've accomplished.
Well, yes, there is a great team, but it takes somebody to assemble that team and lead it. So, and you do an amazing job at that. And so thank you very much for presenting today on this and for sharing all this information. Thanks to Carol and Madeline and all the team I know that are here, because it is a team effort. And it's exciting times at UBC. It's great. And we all get a chance, as I said, to shape how the campus will look in the future. Thank you to everyone for joining us. This is the last hot lunch of the fall. Thanks for bearing with us as we changed the format over the time. Hopefully, we won't make any promises, but hopefully in January, we will get to we'll be able to do our real hybrid where we'll have people in person. But, if I say that, it may not happen. So it might happen. As soon as we can do it, we will, because just as we were talking about the personal contact and the engagement with colleagues, and it's been a great part of Hot Lunch. It has been the foundation of Hot Lunch, is to get together with colleagues and across campus and meet over lunch. So we will try and get that back together, going again. I hope everyone enjoyed the lunch that they had. Thank you to Chef for preparing the lunch. And thank you to Human Resources and the VP's offices for supporting this initiative. And this wouldn't be possible without the amazing work behind the scenes of Jenny and Stacey. at St. John's College. So a big thank you to them. Stay safe, everyone. Enjoy the rest of this year. Hopefully 2022 will be a good one, and we look forward to seeing you in January for the next hot lunch. Take care. Thank you.